Hello and welcome to the second part of our off-track lockdown interview with Kev Smith. Okay, so in terms of cars that you've raced, which was your favourite and why?
I suppose I've liked all of them. The first one, especially, it's the first one you've ever built, so you're proud when you've done that. I remember, when it was first done, standing back and thinking, we've built that. We haven't bought it off someone, we've done it all ourselves. And I mean, I say I'm no welder, I've no ticket or anything to say that I can weld, but we've welded it all up. And building car, we're all done with a stick welder back in those days. I didn't buy my first MIG until '93, and I bought that off Joe Joplin, and I've still got it now. That's the slouchy thing. So all old school stick welding. Another little funny one. Lad Adrian Hines used to help us, and when we were building car, we were on first one. We were drilling suspension brackets out, and we needed like a 5/8 or 3/4 inch hole drilling. And we had this great big old Wolf drill with big pieces of like conduit coming out at handles, because it had that much torque. And we're drilling these holes out, and it snatched when Adrian were drilling them, and it was spinning round Gary, spinning round the car. And it kept spinning him round, and it didn't pull the plug out of the wall. It pulled the wires out of the plug and left the plug in the wall. But luckily, all the other cars after that, I had bought myself a pillar drill. But sorry, back to your question, which was my favourite car? Like I say, my first one was special because it was the first one I built. But I think I would have to say my second one would be my favourite, because that's the one that, I had the most success in. Even though I've said I'd raced because I enjoyed it, you still count your successes. And that one got me the third, the second in the world final, the fourth in the points, Ben Fun champion, Grand National Championship. I think, all the winning that I did that was sort of prestigious was done in that second car. But then when I came back years later, I still liked the first car I built, like 8 years later for 2002. That was a good one. And then my last one, that was the first one that really had money thrown at it. I'd worked for myself, then had a bit more money. We had a bigger engine. Still did it on the cheap, I didn't spend lots of money, but it had the better stuff then. So my second car, the one that gave me the success, has got, I've got the fondest memories. The Fred Shaw Ives Landscapes one.
Yes, yeah. Brilliant. There was a picture that I saw a while ago. I think you'd rolled over, might have been a crew, and your sump guard's made out of a council one-way or diversion sign.
Diversion.
Was it? Had you stole that, or was it deliberate, or was it?
Do I look like a thief? No. At the time, I worked for Kirklees Council. I was in the roading gang, so we did all the tarmacking, the curbing, the flagging and stuff. And at the same depot was the street lighting gang, and they had a scrap pile. And I remember it was actually, unless I'm thinking, because my garage door, or Briggy's garage door that I made, that was a road sign. Half my cars were made out of road signs because I could get them from the scrap pile. So I think the picture at Crewe, that was the second meeting with the car, and it was a diversion. I think it said Sheffield A616 and an arrow pointing that way. So of course it was obsolete. So no, I didn't steal it. It was taken from the scrap pile, but I didn't go and unbolt a sign like a side of a roundabout or anything. It was just a good way. Like, I used to do my firewalls, my floors, my back panels, my sump guards. It was free 3mm aluminium, like I say, budget racing. So,
yeah, absolutely, very good. So in the late 90s, you spent quite a lot of time racing over in Holland on their dirt tracks, and not so much in the UK. What was the reasoning behind that?
I stopped racing in the UK in '95. I mean, I'd just come off. '94 was my most successful season. '95, I started off in good spirits and did well, but I did Hartlepool and a Long Eaton meeting. I think I'd had a couple of wins in those first couple of meetings, but my appendix burst and I spent a bit of time in hospital. It was quite serious, and I had a big scar at the side where it were infected, and again, the same time, I'd started working for myself as well at the end of '94, October, so I just started working for myself. I'm in hospital. Wife was expecting Ayrton, and she was doing a milk round for Neil, and then it was could have caused some complications. So she'd given up doing the milk round, and there was a lot of things happened at the same time. And I think what happened is I'd been so committed to racing, like everybody is, that a lot of circumstances changed. And when I had that few months away, and I don't think I missed it too much. I think there was a lot of things sort of built up to go into Holland. And I qualified for the semi-final from the one meeting, you know, the one qualifier. We'd done the semi. I qualified for the world final, and which takes us back to the Gazbot incident.
Yeah.
So 2 meetings at start of year, semi-final, world final at Ednesford. Who were interested? I wasn't interested in that. And then that, and then I think I only did another 1 or 2 meetings after that because, you know, I had to be careful from, you know, with my appendix.
Yeah.
The buzz had gone. I'd sort of, again, I've mentioned him a couple of times because, you know, the time we spent racing together, it was something Paul Harrison said. My last meeting that I raced in the UK at that time, it was when they used to do the Grand Prix series, and it was down at Long Eaton. Andy Smith were on a roll at the time. You know, it was like the man to beat in '95. But I remember I'd won the first heat, I'd had second in my second heat, and I got second to Andy in final. And I think it was 6 finals on the trot that Andy just won. And I was bored. I didn't enjoy it. Yeah. And I come off and I went, I said, that's it, I've done it. And Paul Harrison had come up to me, oh, you had a right meeting, what? And I just went, I said, I'm selling up. I said, I've finished. I said, I've done. Because what do you mean? And again, so it just shows it was about enjoyment. It's not about results. Results count, yes. You know, I won't say they don't, but it was always, I always said, if I don't enjoy it, I won't do it. So I stopped in '95 in UK, but by May '96, I'd been invited to go out and race at St Martin, the leading dirt track in Holland. And Andy Smith actually went out. I think there were Andy, Lisa Harter, and Mark Gilbank. They all took their cars out, but mine were all for sale. And a bloke called Tice Belt had offered me, says, you can race my car, you know, come over for the May meeting. And I went over there, and I just loved it. You know, so I'd gone from being in '95 to going and racing. So it was field racing, you know, over in Holland. And I'd gone there, and I just enjoyed it. And I just went, I want to do that again. And with them, we actually took my car over to Holland because I hadn't sold it. It was up for sale. I wasn't racing in the UK because I had lost interest. But I went over there and I just loved it. And to me, it was like turning the clock back 10 or 15 years, probably like racing in the '70s, which was the era that, you know, I'd sort of missed out on. Yeah. And I just loved it. And again, we say the field racing, it was on like clay over there, which I'm used to racing clay now from New Zealand. But yeah, you can't race on rain if it's raining on clay because it just goes like grease. It's so like But one of these other tracks that I raced at that I really liked was a track called Callansogue over there. And the first time we ever got to Callansogue, you know, we goes and we're like parked up. We were with Tice's bus and my car were on trailer, and we unloads everything. And it was like the old Nelson days where you used to have to load your spares up and then you drove a bit closer to the track. So we drove out in these couple of fields or whatever, and then like parked up, and I'm going, where's track? This is gospel. This is true. This isn't a made up track. I'm going, where's the track? You know, I didn't know where track was. And then they went, it's there. And then you could see flagpoles and stuff. Right, there was still cow shit all over the, you know, it was a field. Right, so when we talk of field racing, Callansogue, it was a field. There was one corner you weren't allowed to hit because the dike was so deep, a cow would have disappeared under it, so there was no contact on that corner. And I'm sure if you hit someone hard enough at the other corner, you could put them into this old farm building. But yeah, so that track, I didn't know where it was. I'd driven on the track to get to it and didn't even know I'd been on the track. And then obviously the first race then, and actually I had the old, I bought the old Chris Broxop car at the time, and the mesh in the Chris Broxop car, it was 25mm square instead of the 2-inch square, which I'd normally have. So the first race, all these turfs coming up, and it blocked the wind, you know, the screen. I couldn't see with it only being like, you know, 25-inch square. It was just, so I remember for the second race, we cut some of the mesh away to make it into 50mm, you know, 2-inch squares. And I took the stick under my leg, right, and I'm like going around, and as it goes and it flicks all the grass up to the windscreen, I'm going, whoa, that's it, and I'm walking windscreen out with this stick, which I took back under my leg. So when we talk of field racing in Holland, that it was ace. It really was. It was good. So yeah, I raced over there. I did the 96, 97, 98, 99. I think I did 4 seasons racing over there. Used to go over about 10 times a year, and yeah, made a lot of good friends. Real good friends over there. Well, just like anywhere in the UK, just the friendships you make from racing, they're amazing.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that. So talking about racing, I'm racing in Holland, and obviously you're racing in New Zealand as well. How does the racing compare to what traditional stock cars as we see them in the New Zealand stock cars? Which one do you enjoy the most?
Yeah, it's so different. I raced for about 4 seasons over here, only 2 full seasons. I built my own car to race. I've always built my cars, I enjoy it. It's a total different culture. I enjoyed my racing over here, but nowhere near as much as what I've enjoyed it in my heyday or in my time in the UK. The racing over here, it's to be taken out by someone that's 4 laps down or that's got 3 flat tyres doesn't comprehend when you don't take people out that's a lap down when we're racing. So it took a fair bit of getting used to, and I did quite well. I had reasonable success over here, but I never really got into it. But it's like, obviously Team GB come over and the teams racing for anybody that hasn't seen it, it is the biggest spectacle of for stock car racing. It's unbelievable. So that makes up for what seems a bit Mickey Mouse with some of the racing that's like I say, 4 laps down and taking you out. You'd think I'd be all right with it, but no.
Yeah.
So team racing here is brilliant.
Yeah. Okay, brilliant. Obviously you've raced for quite a while. Do you ever wake up in the morning sometimes with a bit of a twinge and go, yeah, that's a stock car racing one, that?
A bit. Sometimes I can't even get to sleep for him. Yeah. Anyone that's raced will have some form of injury. Yeah, I'm not going to reel them all off. Obviously, I got a few injuries. I think that would be one of the downsides to me racing. But I don't think that was linked to how I raced. Again, it was just unfortunate crashes. Like I smashed my ankle up just after I started back in '86, and my leg went down and my foot were at the side of my leg, and I was just parked up and someone had run into me in a big crash, and that was unfortunate there, and then a few other ones. So yeah, I've suffered with an old man's body from racing. But I'm an old man now, so I suppose they go hand in hand, don't they?
Yeah, you look fine. It's all good. You've given me loads already, but funniest moment in stock cars, or funniest moments in stock cars? I'll sit back. I'll wait.
Sit back. I mean, I've spoke about a few. I mean, we did it for enjoyment. The laughs we had, with lots. Let's see. We'll go right back to when I first, before I'd even started. So we're going back to maybe 83, 84. I remember Briggy they were ploughing up one of his fields and going to reseed it. So they turned it into a little stock car track, and there were Opesy then. It were Ken's old car, the pointy car. And so like Neil had a blast round, put some old diesel drums down to mark inside out, and we got down with watering cans and maybe a couple of spare wheels. And like Neil had a quick blast round, and then Ken had a blast round, and they says, "Oh, do you want to have a go?" And I'd probably be 13, 14 or something, and I hadn't really driven anything, but I lived for racing. I lived for stock cars. Oh, can I have a go? So yeah, I get to the car, they straps me in as I go around, and I remember that he's gonna do this field and reseed it and that, and there's a big pile of mucking out and shit and stuff that's all gonna get worked into land. That were just at end of one at straights. So I'm racing round, and I were probably crap, but yeah, I was having a go. It didn't matter. Right. But I must have got a bit sideways. And for anyone then, the first time when you go sideways, so you go into the corner, you get a bit of opposite lock on to correct it because it's going to spin out. And then you scare yourself. So the first thing you do is lift off, but your wheels are pointing that way. So I get to the middle of the corner, and all of a sudden went, boom, that way, straight into this pile of shit. Right. And then I was like, oh no, they're going to give me some stick. So I'm going, wow, I'm trying to get out. And they just said I just did all muck spreading for them. There were these plumes of green stuff coming off back wheels. So that were a funny one for just being a total, you know, like, yeah, just not knowing what we're doing.
Yeah, brilliant.
Another one before I have, if you don't mind me saying it, yeah, another one.
No.
Before I'd started racing, I think actually I hold the record for being the last ever person to race around White City, which shut, I think, 82, 83. And it'll have been the 84 season. And I was helping out John Russell and you know, doing stuff down in Eckmondwike with him. And he bought all John Sturck's gear, and we got one of his cars, and we'd all set off, and there was a few Cleckheaton lads. I can't remember, like, if it were Pete Marsh or Pete Morton or whatever, but you know, Phil Hemingway, them sort of people. But we set off in bus, and we'll go into Buxton, you know, and he wanted to give the car a run. And Buxton, well, we always laugh, it can snow at Buxton in the middle of summer, can't it? Well, this is sort of sometime in winter, and we set off, and it was snowing. And I remember him going, oh, there's no point going to Buxton. It will be snowed in. And we must have been somewhere near Manchester. So we ended up, we were at White City. Now, we didn't break into White City, but we got in. And the track was still there. It was like a ghost stadium, windows smashed, no fence there. But we moved a few bits of wood and benches off track, and it was white. You could barely see track, but it was there, and the fence and the dog track. And then, you know, like John Russell have had a go, Ken had a go, maybe Pete Morton or whatever. And then I remember John Russell, because I got on real well with John, and I did like a lot for him. And he goes, you have a go, Kev, you have a go. And I'm thinking, yes, on a proper track. So I jumped in this car then, and I'm like, I'm not going to say razzing round, because I were probably going out. I don't know how fast I was going, but it wouldn't have been that fast. Now, I'm just absolutely focused on, you know, on this snowy track and not wanting to wreck someone's car. I've only ever been in a field once before. And I'm like racing around, and all of a sudden I comes down straight at this particular time. But there's loads of people all waving their arms at me. And there's police there and a police dog. And they've been trying to flag me down for about 3 laps. You know, someone had caught police saying we broke into the stadium. Anyway, they sort of escorted them out of there. There was no one got in trouble over it because we didn't break in a row. But yeah, so I can say the last person to race at White City, you know, someone proved me wrong if they race there after me. But
brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
That's a good one. I suppose another bit of a funny one. So this one's happened in New Zealand, but it goes back to racing 91 at Hartlepool UK Open. I loved Hartlepool, little tarmac track. Didn't need, you know, I could win there with my Ford. It was a good little track, you know, like a roundabout. You could had a good fence. You could cause some damage there. You know, you could put people in each there. It were good, and. It was the UK Open there, and I'd gone there, and I did quite a bit of winning, and I were quietly confident I could win UK Open. And for the likes of, you know, Bert and Nigel Wharton, and yeah, there were a few others, they turned up for it, and I remember thinking, not having them coming up to my northern track, and you know, so I thought, anyway, I remember I'd won my first heat, I'd won my second heat, it were mine, I were having it, but I'd split my fuel tank in the second heat, and we rushed to get out for the third heat. We like sort of did the best mend we could. Brinner's ace to get back on track. We'd nipped the fuel pipe because we tightened the nuts up. It had twisted the hose, and I couldn't get going for the third heat, so I never even set off. And then that put me down, and Bert had passed me on points. I think Nigel was still behind me, so I went out in final, and I knew I had to stop Bert. If I stopped Bert and beat Nigel and like Jamie, plus in the meantime in these other heats, I'd already. You know, I remember poor Joe Joplin. You know, Joe Joplin were a good mate, he were a good lad, good laugh. But Joe Joplin had gone in a bit of a crash. I think I'd ripped his back axle out of his car. I'd done something to Wharton's roll cage, I think. I'd done something to James Bean's car. I was on a mission. You know, that was my day. But anyway, in the final, I got Bert Finnick, I come up on, or it passed me, or I caught him, whatever, and I'd stuck Bert in. And it was actually the week before the 91 World Final. And when I put Bert in, I think it was a car built by Bernard Poyser, but Clive Linton were involved in it. And I think it was a real lightweight one, but it twisted big style. And I'm thinking, he's out of it now. He's in fence, and chassis rails were like letter S's, you know, it were well bent. Not against Bert, that's what I had to do to win, you know. These, as I call them, Southerners, even though it's only Leek, it was Southern. South of Huddersfield, it's Southern. So job taken care of. Nigel might have been in front of me, but you know, I think I could still do it. And I got a flat tire, so I didn't even finish final. And I think Nigel went on to win it. And I come off an hour gutted after, you know, bloody Nigel Wharton in the fancy tarmac cars won at my Hartlepool. Listen on, and I know we're a bit down. Anyway, there were loads of people all gathered, you know, like looking at damage, because I had caused a bit of damage that day. And they're going, you should see Bert's car. It's a right mess. Look what you've done. So I remember going over for as a sly look, because you're not trying to gloat or anything. Don't want to come across like I did that. It's not that, but you want to see your handiwork. And I went over, and then next thing I know, bang! There's his hand on back of my neck, and it was just like when you're at school when if headmaster grabs you, and it was Clive Linton. And he's going, are you proud of that, lad? Are you proud of that? And then he takes me from there to Wharton's car, where they've had to do something back at Cage, and then Frog marches me down to Joe Joplin's, where Axel's out, Axel's on trailer and his car's on truck or whatever. He's going, are you proud of that, lad? Are you proud of that? And I'm thinking, well, actually, I am. I've done a good job today. And so that was it. That was forgotten about. We moved on. World final week after. Big spectacular world final, that was forgotten about. Years later, because Clive moved out here, I think in '96, and at the time when I say I talked earlier, I didn't like the fancy cars. I didn't also like Clive Linton, and there's no problem, as the story will show. But Clive Linton stood for everything I hated about, the way he probably thought the same with me. He'd have thought I were a Luddite, just smash up the good gear, which I sort of tried to do in a way. But he was a pioneer. He took car technology, a lot further forward. So anyway, so he emigrates over here, and then 10 years after that, we emigrate over here, and then Lundy comes over to race one time, and he's been over several times, but this particular time, we'd said, you have to come up, and we only live literally like 6 minutes from Palmy Speedway, so quite often we'd have a barbecue, have people up, and we'd say, no, come up, and then we'd seen Clive Linton there and Rob, and just, God, I don't know if Keith Barber had come up. I know Keith's been up, so whether it was that time, just come up after the meeting or before the meeting, we'll have a cup of tea or a couple of drinks or whatever, and they come up, and this story came out, so there's me, Lundy, Clive Linton, and maybe Barber, but if not, someone else. And we're discussing this out, and I says, can you remember Hartlepool, UK Open, 91? I says, I were on a mission, and, I went through, and I says, and you grabbed me back at neck and frog marched me around pits. I says, you remember that? And Clive's going, no. I can't remember that. So I had to move on, and then obviously everybody goes, and we'd had a good time. And then a few days later, I see Lundy. Lundy comes straight up to me next time. He goes, he says, when we left your place last time, he says, the minute we got outside, Clive Linton says, of course I can remember, but I won't let that little shit know that that I can remember what was going on. And I just thought, just like I say, it was water under the bridge. I didn't like Clive didn't like me, but 10 years later, we're over here, there's no problems. But just for him to be so, we don't want letting that little shit know. So I just, I like that. It's, that's got a bit of everything. So I think that's we'll leave it there with that.
I like that. Thank you very much. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Some great and like funniest moments. I'm sure you've got more. I'm sure we'll sit here all day.
You probably just get on it and just keep going. But yeah.
Thank you very much. So moving on slightly, you've mentioned you've got one son. I think you've got three sons. Have they shown any interest in racing at all over in New Zealand?
I mean, we've had them racing at one stage. They do mini stocks over here, which is obviously similar to your mini stocks in UK, but they're not made from minis. They are virtual, just small versions of the stock cars with just Datsun running gear. So they've all had to go in those, and it's like Mika, my middle son. He only ever did one meeting in those, and he raced at Wanganui, which is about an hour from here. And he had to go in it, and he loved it. He hit fence and he bounced off fence and it bent side railing a little bit and he come off and he were absolutely like me, all pumped up after a race, and he were buzzing and he loved it. And we thought, this is good, because Ayrton had already had to go and light it. I'll get onto it in a minute. But Mika, he came off and we were buzzing. I'm thinking, good, I've got my two eldest sons that's old enough to race. this is what we'll be doing. And then it was like the following day, them saying, come on, mates, you know, we need to go and wash car off. And you can't believe how a lad that loved his racing so much had lost so much motivation overnight, and he couldn't even be bothered to wash the car off. It's not because he's lazy, but he's just, yeah, he lived for the minute and loved the racing. But then when he realised, oh, hang on, I've got to wash car, and that doesn't include any damage. So that was the one and only meeting that he did, because he wouldn't have committed any time. And I always said, I'm not going to get a car and do everything for you. If you get one, you have to do it. So that put paid to, you know, I say put paid, that stopped Mika racing because he wasn't interested. My youngest one, Emerson, we actually, because Ayrton was already racing mini stocks at this stage, and we built Ayrton a reasonable mini stock that he had a lot of success with. And then we built another new one as well, which Emerson was going to have, but we wanted him to learn in a car. So I bought a cheap car for Emerson to learn in. And it was the day before his 12th birthday. We went up, there's a local track, it's privately owned, and it's called Harrisville. It's a bloke called Harris that owns it, but obviously named it like after Knoxville. And it's a really good thing. He made it, well, he had a field to start with, and they were a big contractor, and he'd set this track out, real good place. And people could go there on a Sunday, pay $30, and just have practice sessions. So we'd gone there with Emerson, and we'd taken the Ayrton's car, the new mini stock that I built that were going to be for Emerson, and then the cheap one we bought for Emerson. And we had a go, and then I had all my 3 sons all out there on track at the same time. And that's like a proud moment, you know, they're following Dad's footsteps. Now, what happened then a little bit later on, I think it was a last run, they'd watered the track and Emerson went out again, bless him. And very similar to my first ever go in Briggy's Field when I went a bit sideways. It was the same for Emerson. He got sideways in this corner because he'd watered it and it's a clay track. So he lifted off. One corner at Harrisville has got the big concrete, like motorway, you know, barriers, you know, around it. And the other side, it's just soil. Well, he'd run and hit the concrete barriers and it bent all bump around, and he would just, you could see he'd sort of hurt himself a little bit. Ayrton run round and climbed up over the fence and got to him, and Emerson's just like, you know, like crying a little bit. You know, it's a big shock for an 11-year-old to just hit a concrete wall and stop dead, even if you're only, you know, going fairly slow. But he's back in pits then afterwards. Car we couldn't get off trailer because bumper were right round him to wheel, and he's going, me balls hurt, me balls hurt. So that unfortunately was the end of Emerson then racing. He never actually got on, you know, on track properly. Like I said, I've said Ayrton. Yeah, Ayrton did well. We built him a car. He did quite a lot of winning with that. It was one of the fastest things, and then we just sort of fell out with it. We drifted away from the racing. We weren't enjoying it, and we sold everything up. But he has started again now as Ayrton, but he's still racing in the mini stocks, but the adult class. Because he was actually, if it hadn't been for this COVID stuff, he was planning on coming over and racing the Hot Stocks World Final this year, was Ayrton. But obviously those plans have, you know, well, there won't be any World Finals, I don't think. But yeah, Ayrton was planning on coming over and racing for that. So there's a bit of racing there, but there's a couple of little, you know, little points to be taken.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. So, in terms of the UK stock car scene, do you kind of keep up to date with what's going on? And I guess if you do, who do you think's number one in the sport at the moment?
Well, obviously, I went back to UK. 2014, I think, and then did a few meetings while I were over there then. Yeah, I do keep up. I always go on Stocksnet and see results, but you've generally already seen them on Facebook anyway. But obviously I'm linked to a lot of the stock car pages. Yeah, I do follow it, you know, to see what's going on. The number one over there, yes, I'm not there watching and seeing, you know, reactions at people and how they're driving, but it's got to be Tom. I mean, Tom just seems unstoppable. He's a talent. And he will be for a long time. I think it's known Tom since he were. I think even before he started racing minis, but he were always going to be. He were committed. I mean, obviously he's had a lot more success than what I ever did. But I remember you know, when he were a young lad, the stuff that he were doing, he'd do everything he could until he, you know, like he used to get his mini stock engine all ready for lifting out at like 12 years old or whatever, but he just couldn't lift it out and had to wait for Mick to come home and lift it out. He were committed. He reminded me of me, you know, like when I were a lot younger, you're doing everything. I had to teach myself to weld because there was no one else there to do it. You know, Tom he wanted to learn. And then he actually did some work experience from us. We'd met up with them at one at meetings. He'd come back to our place, and so we were probably only 15. We were still at school, and then we'd gone mowing and that during days, and then doing stock cars on a night. And then we met up with Mick and Bozzy at Coventry week after, and he went home. And yeah, so I mean, there is a good like sort of friendship there as well. But you know, you've got to argue. You know, it'd be hard to argue that there's anyone better than Tom racing there now.
Yeah. Brilliant. If you came back into the sport today, would Kev Smith be a different driver, do you think?
Oh, definitely. He's an old man now. So we'd have to have like tarmac pits and my Zimmer frame and get there a bit easier, and a big wide cab to get in and out of, and you know, copper slip the side so I could get in and out easier. No, I mean, yes, if I came back, yeah. I'm 52 now, so it's just I were in my age, I were in my 20s. You're bulletproof in your 20s, aren't you? Whereas now I'd be going, oh, I don't know if I could get through that gap. You know, it just, it just. I think if I was there now, something that does appeal to me. I don't know all the ins and outs, but I see all the heritage cars that there are around. I love some of the original heritage cars that they restored and get back out there. And there's also some of like the old chronic cars that have been built. I don't know who's built them, but they just, I think, for me, the heritage scene now would be what I would be back involved with, because too old to race, and all these young lads that just stick me in and go, you used to be hard. And I'd be going, 2 weeks later, I'd still be hurting. So, my days are long gone, but I think a heritage car would be the way to go. Find an old one to restore rather than building one. But if not, I'd have to build an iconic one like Gordon Smith's mini-bodied ones or somewhere. Some iconic cars. So.
Brilliant. Obviously, in your heyday, like you've mentioned, clearly a big character in the sport. Do you think stock cars, the modern day stock cars, needs more characters to kind of help it thrive and generate success for
it? There's always characters in the sport. There'll be characters there. I mean, I suppose it's a little bit hard to comment. I'm not there now, seeing it week in, week out. But from what you read, there's things happening. There is characters in the sport now, like there was in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s. So there's always going to be characters, so it's not that it needs them, it's got them. It's a hard one really to sort of, there isn't anything that's as good as Formula One stock cars. It's just, it's the pinnacle of motorsport. If you love it, you love it. It's as simple as that. Like I've said, I didn't like the way the cars were going. And when I look at the cars now, like when I went over 2014 and I spent a bit of time down at Tom and Mick's, and in Tom's car, and like out in workshop with Tom, and you're looking the technology, the cleverness of lots of people, Tom in particular, and he's racing abroad. It brings so much more things. But it's not a working man's sport. To me, it should have. But stuff moves on. I'm just, like I say, I'm an old, has-been. But I wanted it to be like that, a big, aggressive, lots of cars at meetings. The more cars on track, the better, and it creates its own action. It doesn't need a war between two top men it creates its own good race.
That makes sense. Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. I've got 2 more questions for you, and the 2 questions that I've asked pretty much everybody. So, kind of keeping it topical. If you had to self-isolate with 3 people, so you've got 1 current Formula 1 stock car driver, 1 ex-Formula 1 stock car driver, and a driver from another formula, and you're going to be in a house together, who are you going to choose and why?
Right, so my current driver, like I said, I'm on the back foot a little bit because I haven't been over there for a long time, but I've just spoke about him. It would have to be Tom. It's someone that I've known from a long time ago. You know, I've met up with him, spent the time with him when we were over there. I'd love to hear more about his racing overseas, and yeah, just like I say, I've a lot of time for Tom, and you know, so he'd be my current driver. My ex-driver, old driver, I'd have to be our Ken, Mr. Hopes. Obviously, really close with Ken. My uncle, as I said, but yeah, so my ex-driver, yeah, Ken without a doubt. Yeah. And I think anyone that remembers, you know, when Ken were, well, he still goes now, but Ken were always a character. And I think that part of that sort of rubbed off on me, you know, everyone sort of liked him. He was a happy-go-lucky, laughing chap. Wasn't very successful racing, but he was out there, he was giving it his best, he enjoyed it. So, yeah, no, I can't think of anyone better to have in-house than Ken. Yeah. And then driver from another formula, you say?
Yeah.
So, right. So I'll tweak this one a little bit then, but I think he still raced Formula 2s last year, but predominantly he's a Formula 1 driver, and that's Briggy. So Neil Brigg 87 or 987, I think, or 887 in Formula 2s. Yeah. So if he raced last year, he's still a current driver. Yeah, he is, because no one's raced this year. So therefore he's still a current driver. So yeah, so Briggy will be me other. I've spent all my life, well, all my racing life has been spent up at Briggy's farm, which will be a perfect time to say, when you talked earlier about the sponsorship with Tony Cole being, you know, it was a big sponsorship. My biggest sponsorship ever has been Neil, because without Neil, I couldn't have afforded to rent a workshop. Yeah, and so in the early 80s, Ken used to rent a workshop. There were 3 of them used to share a workshop down in Milnes Bridge. And for whatever reason, maybe one of them wanted to get out, but they lost the workshop. So Neil invited Ken to the farm. So then Ken kept all his stuff up at Briggy's farm and ended up with Briggy's old car, and Neil raced his car a couple of times. So as Neil once said to me, he invited Ken to the farm, he inherited me. Yeah. And I thought, it sums it up perfect, but the ultimate respect for Neil. He's done more for me than probably, you know, anybody else, you know, outside of your mum, dad, and like say Ken through me, you know, from my childhood days and growing up. So yeah, those have been my 3. Tom as my current, Ken as the ex, and Briggy as the from another formula, even though he was a Formula 1 man. So
yeah.
That's all right with you.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. And my last question: who are your top 3 Formula 1 stock car drivers of all time?
All time. Not going to surprise anybody with any answers here. Anybody that doesn't say Stuart Smith, you know, they haven't been to stock cars. He's just, yeah, he was Mr. Stock Car Racing. He was, yeah, he was the man. So and I'm not putting these in order, but I'll just say them as 3. So yeah, Stuart, and then Lundy.
Yeah.
Again, there's no one will have a bad word. He's a gentleman. He's a hard driver. He's won 8 world champions. He's just, yeah, he's the man. There's a lot of other good drivers as well, but you want me 3 top, and then my 3rd top one will be Andy Smith. Yeah, so Andy was just yeah, a good clinical, right, you know, just like the perfect driver, really. He would have won a lot more had he not retired. So yeah, and like, yeah, I had the courtesy of, you know, racing against him for quite some years. And actually, I suppose there's a bit of a record. What I should have, if I'd have put in young Stuart, who is very, again, if Stuart hadn't have had the bad crash and wasn't, Stuart would have gone on to have been one of the best, because again, he was a talent, totally different from Andy, but more my style of, you know, get stuck in, fight your way to the front. Andy could think about it, and you know, it was technically just sneaky. It took some getting, did Andy. It didn't happen very often to get him, but yeah, we're a bit of a thing. So, but no, what I was saying. So yeah, so those are my 3. But if Stuart had been in, I can say this, and I'm proud to say this, there'll only be a few others that can say the same thing. But I've been buried by all of the Smiths, Stuart Senior, Andy, and Stuart, young Stuart. So there we are. I'm proud. I've been buried by all of them. And old man Smith, he stuck me in at Cleethorpes. I think it'd be 86. They run 3 meetings there, and I thought I was going for a hot dog. you know, it was nothing. I think he went on to win fine law. He were on a mission, and I was just like, I was just fence fodder in '86. So I remember. So yeah, all three of them have stuck me in big style. So,
did you ever get any of them back though?
Not old man Smith, eh? Yeah, I had a few run-ins with Andy because we were both battling around. You know, like when I got my second hit world final, he'd won it. We were both around the top of the spot at the same time. And like Andy was frustrating from my point of view because he just always got me right. He just knew just to leave me so that I couldn't get back, because he knew if I could have got back on him, he would have got one. And then a couple of times I got him, you know, but not many. And then Stuart, I had a couple of good races with Stuart. There's two that stick in my mind. One was it was at Bellevue, and it was the Stu Bamforth Memorial. Now that is a trophy that I did always want to win. I came quite close, but I never won it. But this particular night, it could have been mine. But Stuart was winning, and I was second. And someone had dropped a radiator hose or blown the radiator in turn 3. And Stuart struggled a little bit more than me with it. I found a fast line and I reeled him in. And I think it was the last bend, and I was a long way away. And it went bang, and I made contact and I launched him in. But of course, then I hit the water. So then I went a bit sideways. Stuart had disappeared off into, you know, fence at this stage. I'd gone sideways and just thought, oh, it's all right. There's Falding and Lundy and someone else coming. I thought, oh, Falding's got to hit me front end here, straighten me up. I can still win this. So I like that. And then Falding had seen what were happening and run up over the curb and I had to do a full donut, and I finished 4th. But it got me back good for that one, did Stuart. And it were at a Skeggy meeting. But actually, so going back to that, I'm going out for the Grand National then. And like, yeah, it was a good hard one. And yeah, people say, oh, yeah, you could have won. No, I had to do it to try and win. It was the last bend. And I'm going back out for the National. And just as I were going out for the National, they just eventually got Stuart's car out at fence and were taking it back to pits. And I thought, you know, as you do, sort of thing. But I got my comeuppance a couple of weeks later. We were at Skeggy, and it was Shale at this stage. Now, it's an easy thing to say now. One of my downfalls with racing is I never looked in my mirror. I forgot the mirror existed. Some drivers, you watch that straight, they're looking at mirrors all the time. I didn't care who were behind me. You know, I think the only time I would have looked in my mirror, say if I got out to the front and like lap boards 3 to go, and oh, is there anyone there? Do I have to still pass these cars? But normally racing, I wouldn't look in mirror, so I could get caught out, you know, quite easy. It's not something I would tell people at the time. But I'm racing at Skeggy, going round, minding my own business. All of a sudden, there's this almighty bang! And I went, oh, I caught Jeff Nichols, and we both hit fence, and it were a good one. It were a bloody good one. I haven't seen the video of it, but I know from the feel of it. Anyway, what happened is, both me and Jeff Nichols hit the fence. Now, this is going to sound nasty towards Jeff, and I don't mean it nasty because Jeff is a star. But Jeff must have been knocked out, and luckily for me, he was. Because as Jeff hit the fence and his car went like that, his inside back wheel came into the cab. So I had a rally tyre sat on my arm in the cab as I'm like there going, just catching my breath. And I'm just thinking, shit, I hope Jeff don't try and back out, because I couldn't move my arm. It was pinned under his wheel and tyre. But he was unconscious. So, like I said, that was lucky for me. And then I'm going, what happened? Who was that? Who was that? And it was young Stuart getting me back from Bellevue. But like, yeah, I know then. Oh, then they made me go off because it actually bent roll cage a bit, where Jeff's bumper hit the front pillar of the roll cage, bent it in, and then the wheel come in the cab. And I had to load up. They wouldn't let me race. But I know it's like one of the things, and that one in particular, but other times, you had to drive your car off the track. If someone had got you, it didn't matter how bad the car was, you drove it off. Well, this one, there was no real damage apart from the roll cage stuff, so I drove it off. And by all accounts, I don't know if this is right, maybe Stuart or Andy or someone would say that old man Smith must have said to him, you didn't do it right, he drove his car off, and that's the whole reason why you have to drive your car off the track. So I've been buried by all of them, and I've dished it out to 2 of them. But
absolutely brilliant. Kev, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you this morning. You know, we've gone on far longer than we ever thought, but it's been such an amazing time talking to you. Before we go, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, I mean it's not my sort of thing. I don't like sort of interviews, and Rob Hughes used to come round with camera and microphone back in the day doing all stuff. Ace bloke again, Rob Hughes, but put that camera in front of me and I climb up. I'm wooden. I'm like a Thunderbird puppet. I don't like it, but I've thoroughly enjoyed doing this. It's just reminiscent of old times. You can tell if stock cars in your blood, it's in your blood and it stays there. And I'm still passionate about it now. I was in the day. You have your ups and downs and you stop racing because you don't enjoy it. But again, now, I look back, I've got, my life has been around stock cars and I wouldn't change one bit of it. Oh, yeah, maybe the injuries I've had, I would have taken away the injuries, but, that's it. I've loved it. And I enjoyed talking to you, Jonathan, and brilliant interview. But we're good. Hopefully it's come across all right for everybody else.
Yeah, I'm sure people are going to love it. I'm sure people it's been such a good time. Thank you so much, and go to bed now, can't you?
Well, what time is it? It's 11 o'clock now. Yeah, I've been up since 5. So I'll be a bit bleary-eyed, but it was worth it anyway.
Right, thank you so much, Kev. Brilliant.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Bye. Somebody wants to talk to you, Kev.
Hey, up.
I'll give you
the old man. I knew a lad like you, but we were a lot younger. How you doing?
Kevin, right. It doesn't matter how I'm doing. Nobody cares how I'm doing. Everybody cares how you're doing. I'm sure John will ask you, but I've not been listening to anything. So as far as I'm concerned, just very briefly, start from scratch with me. Are you alive?
Only just. No, I'm doing well over here. It's just turning into an old man like we all are. We're all getting older, fatter and balder, aren't we?
Well, you're not baldy. You're a bit older, and you definitely, you've put on 3 stone, fatty.
3 stone? Hey, you'll do for me, mate.
And again, I say, just quickly, Kev, because I don't want to jump in on Jonathan's a superstar. He's much better at this than I. But we all miss you, man. When are you coming to do, you've got to come back and do a little race with the old timers, surely.
Well, last time when I come back, I was supposed to have a go in Tom Harris's car at Skeggy. It was when they were doing that the 3 world final, world champions racing against each other. But time dictated I couldn't, because Tom had said to me, if you can fit in this seat, you can race the car. Well, Tom's this wide and I'm that wide. But I went, I can still press pedal, even though my arse was like 6 inches off back of his seat. so I would have had to go in practice then. But if I ever come back, I'd love a blast round in a heritage car. If there was ever a veterans race, I would like to, because how fast you'd be these days, you don't know. I mean, it's about 10 years. I think 2011 I give up racing, but you still think you can do it. So it'd be interesting to see.
I hope you're better at stock car racing than you are at being in the centre of the screen, because right at the moment I can see about half of your nose, which is probably more than I want to see. But can you get see what I'm seeing? Like, you're right over. Move to your left.
Right, I don't seem to my screen when I'm looking.
Apparently it's my fault, Sam. So that's better for me, but not.
It won't be me. You should. It's never my fault.
It's me. I can't even think straight.
You start.
Kevin, let me tell you this. Right? At some point, I'm coming to New Zealand. I expect to see you and have a coffee and a little meal with you, and it'd be. And are you still with her?
Oh yeah. One big happy family over here.
Oh, fabulous. Well, when I come over, it's right on the top of my list, New Zealand.
I'd be disappointed if you come over and you didn't come. And you'd be at Palmy Speedway, you'd have to come for teams. Teams is something else, and we're 6 minutes away from track, so everyone comes up here when they're over. So so we've got a date. Kevin,
you're the most deeply missed man in the universe. It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you well, and I feel honestly privileged to talk to you, Princess.
No. There's a lot of people that don't miss me. A few do, but I think there's a lot that don't.
I look forward to seeing your interview. Take it carefully and be good.
Will do, and we'll catch you over here sometime.
You will, definitely. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye, Roger.
Jono.
See you later.